I could never think of anyone being able to cheat on me. I can't say exactly why I had that thought. Maybe it was my upbringing. Maybe it was my environment. Ever since I was a kid, I was one hell of an adorable kid. My mother was a regular winner in contests like Miss Bikini, so it wasn't surprising that some of her beauty genes were passed down to me. My father was no slouch either, having been one of the most enviable suitors in the neighborhood when he was young. Even before I was born, none of our family friends doubted that I would be attractive. At the age of 2, I began to be photographed for various children's magazines. Many mothers were fascinated by my light blue eyes and curly golden curls. It was because of my looks that I was able to start my career at such a young age. Some haters assumed that my beauty would gradually fade with the years. Fortunately, they turned out to be quite wrong. I only got better every year. Beginning in elementary school, the girls would not give me a pass. Slowly but surely I ate the quivering hearts of women. Of course, many boys did not like my popularity, because of which there were periodic conflicts. In high school, things got worse. Under the effect of jealousy, some boys challenged me to fights or something similar. The girls didn't interest me much, so I tried to ignore such pranks. All my relationships were not serious. My parents often scolded me for this, because, in their opinion, it was categorically wrong to abuse beauty. "Charlie, don't be a womanizer," said my mother kindly. "It's very unkind and not serious at all." "Yes, Mom, you better find yourself some nice girl. I am sure there are plenty of such ladies these days." "Okay, Mom," but at the time I didn't listen to that kind of moralizing. I kept segregating girls by their looks, because I wasn't attracted to anything else about them at all. When I graduated high school, my appetites grew. My surroundings changed, with models replacing cheerleaders. I walked the catwalk myself for a while, but not for long. I was invited to several auditions for a movie. I didn't want to refuse, because you can't put beauty on bread. I had to work in order to live a good and comfortable life. Surprisingly, I got my first audition in my life, and so began my ascent to stardom. With each new role, I became more and more in demand actor. With the money, I was also becoming more desirable groom. The golden age of my youth began. I met different, interesting ladies, and spent a lot of free time with them. Not a single club was left without my visit. I loved going there, as it was possible to meet a lot of attractive and pretty girls. That's how I met my first wife. We lived together for a short time, but thanks to her I was able to finally formulate the requirements for a potential soulmate. We lived with my second wife for a little longer, about 7 months. I can't say for sure anymore, but earlier there was probably a reason why we couldn't continue our relationship with her, and it kept repeating itself. I had several other wives that I never really connected with. Fortunately, these failures lasted until I met Molly. She was not much different from my previous spouses, but she still had a twist. We met at a priest's screening of a movie where I played a supporting role. That day I was not given much attention, which I was very pleased with. I was in a positive frame of mind, and I was talking to my buddies on the set. I was passionate about the conversation, but at one point, all thoughts completely vanished from my head, and it was because I noticed Molly. She was an incredibly beautiful girl. I instantly experienced an attraction to her person as well as the beautiful forms that fell into my eye. "Excuse me, could you give me a few minutes of your time?" I politely inquired of the girl as she approached me. Her wide smile enchanted me. "What kind of question?" she asked in response. "You seem very attractive to me, so I wanted to enjoy your company. Alas, I am married. In that case, it's a great reason to file for divorce from your husband." It was with this phrase that it all started. At first, I did not expect my new acquaintance to react in any way to my proposal. Those words were spoken under the influence of several glasses of champagne. In a moment of slight intoxication, I bet too much on my appearance, and it turned out that my pretty face did not play the least part. Molly and I met secretly on the terrace. It was apparent almost at once that she was more than indifferent to her husband, but it was not for me to judge her, for I had not done very well either. "What is your name?" I asked. "Molly Brown, charming name, and how did you get here? What brings you to tonight's screening?" "Well, I'm not really interested in movies, but my husband is a screenwriter. I often attend events of a similar format with him. However, for my vocation I am an online model." I smiled happily as I was just expecting to hear a similar answer. "You didn't surprise me. With your adorable green eyes, it's no wonder you're modeling. I've never met a woman as graceful and seductive as you, Molly." We flirted for another 10 minutes, but my new acquaintance had to go to her husband. We exchanged numbers as we should have, and then we never saw each other again that day. After that, I saw Molly very often. Of course, our meetings were secret, but they didn't last long. After 2 months, she easily left her husband to spend more time with me. I took this quite normally because I knew that she was attracted not only to me, but also to my money. As long as I didn't run out of it, Molly would always be chasing my tail. I had a lot of fun with this girl. I've rarely had a similar experience with a member of the female sex. Maybe she's my destiny, I sometimes thought, and then shoved the intrusive thoughts away. I still struggled with doubts for a long time. But it was over as soon as Molly made her first move. "Charlie, I love you," Molly said. We were cuddled up in my bed. It was a very intimate moment. "Why don't you answer me, and I love you?" "Really, of course. Can I give you any other answer?" On Molly's face, you could see an extreme degree of human satisfaction. It was probably the answer she'd been waiting to hear. I was very happy, too. There were butterflies in my stomach. "So maybe we should get married," Molly asked me out of the blue. "What, marry?" I was a little stunned that our relationship was growing so fast. I was also a little intimidated by the prospect of marriage. Knowing what Molly had done to her ex-husband, I didn't feel like putting our relationship on the books. What if this woman wanted to divorce me in the future and take some of my property as she had done with her ex-husband? "Don't you want to?" Molly asked me pitifully. And I really had trouble answering that question. However, I found some arguments as to why marriage was not such a bad idea. "I do," I said. "Then are we getting married?" "Yes." "When will the wedding be?" "Whenever you want, of course." The wedding ceremony was literally the following week. I couldn't understand why Molly was in such a hurry to ask. Perhaps she even had some ulterior motive. But there was no point in thinking about what was done and what I myself had signed up for. We had a lavish wedding. Many successful and famous guests were invited, which couldn't help but please my ego. Molly's dress looked absolutely adorable. Looking at her that day, I felt as if I would fall in love with her with the purest of love. Our married life together began. I dreaded this phase because I was very familiar with it. It was during this period that conflicts begin between couples. I more or less knew what to expect, so I felt invulnerable in the hands of my woman, and Molly turned out to be a wonderful wife. At least, that's what it seemed to me and my family. She didn't cause any unnecessary problems, and she was very discreet in public. This aspect played almost the main role because I was still a media personality. By attending various events as my date, Molly gradually began to gain more popularity. It was the greatest joy for her. Gradually, I began to gain respect for my spouse, as she proved to be a very calculating and forward-thinking person. Molly was often interested in our financial situation. In most cases, she was the one who took the initiative to buy various stocks. I had nothing against it, for some things were simply too much for me to think about on my own. I did not suspect my wife of cheating, for there was absolutely no reason to do so. Molly always remained cheerful and attentive to me. I was calm, but one day a very interesting event happened that made me question the honesty of my dear wife. We were making love. All was well, and nothing foretold trouble. I felt completely at peace. Together we were beginning to peak. Molly was beginning to scream. "Oh, more, yes, Thomas." I was very surprised, since my name was Charlie. This little misunderstanding confused me. Without stopping, I began to wonder why I was named Thomas. Molly's groans subsided. When I noticed the look on her face, it was clear she was tense. Apparently my wife hoped I hadn't heard anything. "Why, Thomas?" I asked. What? You called me Thomas." "I accidentally, out of habit. That was my ex-husband's name." I didn't answer. I was offended, but a little mistake like that can't be a sign of real infidelity. I decided to just forget about what had happened. And I thought I had made the right choice because there were no further problems. If I had started to get caught up, it probably wouldn't have affected me in the best way. It wasn't until 9 years later that my suspicions started to arise again. A similar situation happened, only with a different name. Stan, my intoxicated wife, moaned during one of our nights together. It was after this incident that I began to wonder about my wife's fidelity. I specifically remembered that name my wife accidentally uttered. My mind seemed to be possessed, for I could not think of other things. A surveillance of Molly began. I hired a private detective to follow my wife. Only there was no point, because my wife accidentally spotted him herself. Watching an unknown man of stalking, she filed a police report. From that moment, the cooperation with the private detective ended. I was to deal with my own suspicions. I came up with the most usual idea. I spied the password to Molly's phone and then stole it for a while. I had to get right to the point, so my wife wouldn't get suspicious. The search did not last long, because the first correspondence in the phone was with one Stan. On the dialogue immediately became clear for what purpose my wife was communicating with him. "Can we meet today?" the man asked. "I think not. Charlie wanted to go to a restaurant with me. Tomorrow then." "Okay, we'll do the usual at the hotel." Done. I also picked up a few juicy topics of conversation. My wife was shamelessly sending intimate photos of herself to a stranger. I was furious, because these were the same pictures she was sending me. I had to take drastic action. On the same day, I decided to break up with his wife, because I had no desire to keep her after all the things she did behind my back. "We have to break up," I said on one of the most ordinary days. "But why? I know you were cheating on me." "Charlie, you got it all wrong. That's enough. Is this what you do to me after all the years I put up with and helped you? Did you have any gratitude?" My wife said indignantly. "And what should I be grateful to you for? That all this time I have been with you and helped you. I even left my husband for you, Molly. All you needed was an excuse. I'm sorry. Please, I was wrong. I didn't know why I did what I did. It's not true. I'll never do it again. It was just a stupid mistake." With the influence of my own emotions, I was still able to forgive my wife. We were together for a while, but my feelings were no longer as sincere as before. So I decided that at the first opportunity one would leave my wife right away. That chance came very quickly. That same year I met a new girl. In the old scheme of things I was able to impress her. What was Molly's surprise when I filed for divorce? "But why?" she asked. "I thought we had it all worked out. I found a new girl for me, and you're just ready to trade me in for someone else. Just like a thing, you left me no choice." We started a complicated legal battle. Over the years we'd been together, we'd accumulated a lot of property together, which made the process more complicated. It was clear from Molly's actions that she wanted to rip me off, except, luckily, I had hired a very good lawyer. It ended up that my wife was not able to cheat me. Even on the contrary, she was very unlucky because most of the property was written down in my name. Now my ex-wife has found herself a new man. However, being twice divorced, she ceased to be a desirable target for many young men. Well, I forgot about Molly very quickly, and I hope that I will never think of her again in the future. Second story. About a month ago, my wife and I attended her Christmas work party at a bar close to her workplace. We had initially agreed not to stay for an extended period, considering my early commitments the next morning. Upon arrival, we parked in her work parking lot and walked to the bar. Given our responsibilities with several small kids, such nights out were infrequent, and with the kids at Nana's, my wife was enjoying the evening. Around 10 p.m., I suggested leaving, noticing my wife was getting fairly tipsy. However, her work girlfriends encouraged her to stay. She asked if I minded, and I agreed, opting for an Uber ride home since her work was covering the costs. Arriving home, I went to sleep, but around 3:30 a.m., I woke up to find my wife still absent. Calls and texts went unanswered, and discovering that the bar had closed at 2 a.m., concern set in. Worried something might have happened, I decided to drive back to the bar, calling multiple times in the hope she'd answer, but she never did. Upon reaching the bar, I saw her car in the parking lot with the lights on and engine running. Pulling up behind her, I got out, walked up to the window, and peered inside. Complete shock overcame me as it seemed my brain couldn't process what my eyes were witnessing. My wife was shirtless, leaning over, providing oral sex to a guy in the passenger seat. In disbelief, I forcefully opened the car door, exclaiming, "What the?" My wife, heavily intoxicated, retorted, "We're just talking." Carrying a pocket knife, I opened it, pointing it at him, declaring, "You're dead." Furious, I stormed around to the passenger side, yanked the door open, and confronted him. He apologized, hands up, as I grabbed him and forcefully pulled him out of the car. After a stumble, he hastily pulled up his pants and scurried away. Meanwhile, I faced my wife, inebriated with her exposed chest, questioning, "How could you do that?" She insisted they were just talking. I helped her put her shirt back on and drove her home. I spent the night on the couch, sleeping little. The next morning, she claimed no recollection of the incident, leaving me uncertain about its truth or her choice to feign forgetfulness. It's been about a month, and I'm grappling with mixed emotions about her and our 8-year marriage, which includes 3 kids. The path forward remains unclear. Third story, so here's my story. I'm a regular 16-year-old guy in high school, currently a junior. I'm not antisocial, but I'm not a fan of loud, giant crowds unless I'm close to the people in them. One day, I went to a party thrown by a friend, and there I met a girl who also attended our school. She was a freshman, and I found her to be the cutest girl I had ever met. We got along well that night, but nothing significant happened. Later at school, we crossed paths again, hung out more, exchanged numbers, and discovered shared interests. We went on dates, played video games, and I started thinking she was perfect. Her family was overprotective, but they liked me because I was a decent guy, funny and gentle. My only flaw was being a bit shy and insecure, as I had never asked out a girl this cute. Things were going well until one day, she distanced herself a bit. It turned out that a guy had asked her out, and they started dating. I wasn't angry with her, just disappointed in myself. Ironically, the day she changed, I bought her a necklace and was planning to confess my feelings. Despite her having a boyfriend, we continued hanging out. She seemed a bit too comfortable with me, but nothing happened. After about a month, she broke up with her boyfriend, and I comforted her. A few weeks later, I confessed my feelings to her, and she admitted to liking me even before her previous relationship. She wanted time to heal, and I respected that. I gave her the necklace, and her friend later told me she cried tears of happiness. We started going on dates, doing things together, and it felt like we were a couple. Her family liked me a lot. However, when I went on a week-long field trip to explore colleges in Florida, things changed. We chatted less than I expected, but nothing seemed odd. When I returned, she was a bit distant, but still sweet. Approaching Valentine's Day, I asked her out, and she hesitated, saying she didn't want to go out but might do something. This didn't sound like her. During that week, I bought her 2 presents and kept them a secret. 2 days before Valentine's Day, I offered to walk her home, but she declined, citing the Miami sun. That afternoon, I saw her kissing another guy from school. The pain hit me hard, and I felt empty. I resisted lashing out, walked home, and blocked her from everywhere. I ignored her pleas to talk, leaving her confused. Some friends supported me, while others thought I was exaggerating. It hurt that she betrayed me after making me wait, but I chose to keep to myself and block her out. Was I wrong to ignore her? Thanks for joining us on this chapter of Relation Tales. If you were moved by these stories, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Don't miss out on the upcoming emotional roller coaster of relationships. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to share more compelling tales with you. Until next time, remember, every relationship has a story worth telling. See you soon.